What if geopolitics reverse direction? In a world defined by alliances, rivalries, trade flows, and strategic competition, geopolitics often appears to move forward in predictable cycles. Yet imagine a scenario where global power structures, diplomatic alignments, and regional blocs shift not along their current trajectories, but in the opposite direction. For decades, international relations have followed trends shaped by demographics, economic growth, resource availability, and technological capacity. Nations with expanding populations typically seek greater influence, while aging states face gradual constraints. Trade networks reinforce interdependence, and security alliances deepen based on shared interests and perceived threats. These patterns form the foundation of modern geopolitics. But reversing direction means imagining a pivot. Rising powers stabilize or decline earlier than expected. Established states regain strategic confidence, and alliances shift toward configurations once considered improbable. It is a thought experiment grounded not in fantasy, but in the plausible consequences of shifting incentives, energy transitions, demographic inversions, and adaptive policy strategies. The first noticeable effect of a reversal in geopolitical direction is a reevaluation of strategic priorities. Countries previously focused on outward expansion might turn inward, emphasizing domestic capacity and resilience. Meanwhile, nations traditionally oriented toward internal development could pursue greater regional engagement. Trade relationships begin to reconfigure. If economic blocs start unwinding rather than expanding, supply chains gradually shorten. Manufacturing that had been dispersed globally may partially relocalize, as companies seek to reduce exposure to diplomatic volatility. This is not instantaneous reshoring, but a measured recalibration influenced by changing strategic assumptions. Energy policy also shifts early. Regions that previously sought energy independence may rediscover the benefits of cooperative resource management. Conversely, areas that relied heavily on imports could invest more in localized renewable capacity. The reversal is not ideological. It is adaptive, shaped by shifting risk assessments. Security alliances adjust accordingly. Where large blocs once expanded, they may now contract to core members. Where smaller partnerships once remained limited, they may deepen. Militaries emphasize defensive posture and regional stability rather than forward presence. This reflects a world recalibrating its assumptions about influence and vulnerability. Long-standing disputes enter a phase of controlled de-escalation. Diplomatic backchannels grow more active as states reassess the costs of prolonged tension. Some contested regions explore confidence-building measures, not out of sudden goodwill, but because strategic priorities have shifted direction. This early phase does not produce dramatic transformation. Instead, it initiates a broad rebalancing of expectations. The world begins to slow, pivot, and redistribute its strategic momentum. A geopolitical reversal influences global environmental policy in unexpected ways. As competition for influence decreases, cooperative environmental agreements gain traction. Nations begin reconsidering large-scale conservation initiatives, especially where ecosystems overlap across borders. With reduced pressure for strategic resource acquisition, some frontier extraction projects slow down. This does not eliminate demand for minerals or fossil fuels, but it modulates urgency. Investment gradually pivots toward long-term environmental stability, especially in regions previously vulnerable to geopolitical friction. Economically, the reversal manifests as a shift toward multipolar stabilization. Rising powers that once projected rapid growth may adopt consolidation strategies, strengthening domestic industries and reducing reliance on foreign capital. Mature economies facing demographic slowdown might rediscover industrial competitiveness through targeted automation and retraining. Global trade volumes do not collapse. Rather, they plateau. Supply chains become more modular, with contingency pathways built to reduce systemic shocks. Regional trade agreements grow more prominent, focusing on resilience rather than rapid expansion. Financial markets react with cautious stability. Geopolitical risk premiums decrease in some sectors, especially energy and transportation. Meanwhile, industries dependent on global scale, such as large-volume retail and electronics, adapt by optimizing inventory and reducing logistical vulnerabilities. Labor markets experience reorientation. Countries previously dependent on imported labor invest more heavily in workforce development. Conversely, states with surplus labor seek regional opportunities rather than distant migration channels. This realignment creates new patterns of economic dependence and cooperation. Technological development continues along established trajectories, but its geopolitical framing changes. Instead of being leveraged primarily for competitive advantage, digital infrastructure becomes a tool for regional harmonization. Cross-border data standards gain support as nations prioritize interoperability. Energy infrastructure experiences a pragmatic shift. Regions invest more in grid stability, microgrid expansion, and predictable energy flows, rather than large-scale geopolitical energy projects. The result is a slow but steady improvement in energy resilience. Transportation systems adapt as well. Major infrastructure corridors, rail, highways, and ports refocus on regional efficiency and redundancy. These changes reduce the strategic vulnerability of critical bottlenecks. As geopolitical tensions ease, societies experience reduced exposure to international volatility. Media narratives shift away from great power confrontation and toward regional economic performance. Public sentiment becomes more oriented toward domestic stability and sustainable growth. Migration patterns adjust in tandem. With fewer geopolitical hotspots, displacement rates decrease modestly. While economic migration continues, the pressure from conflict-driven displacement eases. The international system grows more symmetrically structured. Institutions like regional development banks and intergovernmental councils gain importance. States form smaller, flexible partnerships tailored to specific challenges: water management, energy reliability, climate adaptation, and digital standards. These cooperative mechanisms create a world less defined by zero-sum rivalry and more aligned with shared regional priorities. A key feature of this geopolitical reversal is reduced militarization of international competition. Defense budgets stabilize or contract slightly as states redirect resources to domestic infrastructure. Security dynamics remain complex, but they become more predictable. As relationships recalibrate, diplomatic bandwidth increases. Countries invest more in regional institutions capable of handling long-term planning and dispute management. This helps prevent localized tensions from escalating. Over the long term, reversing the direction of geopolitics results in a more balanced distribution of influence. Large states maintain significant roles, but they no longer dominate every regional discourse. Mid-sized economies gain room to maneuver, leveraging strategic partnerships to enhance regional stability. Global supply chains settle into a hybrid model, not fully globalized, not fully localized. Energy systems progress toward diversified portfolios, emphasizing reliability rather than pure cost efficiency. Environmental cooperation accelerates. As geopolitical frictions decrease, funding for climate resilience increases across multiple regions. Human development improves steadily. With fewer disruptions from diplomatic volatility, health systems and social programs gain predictability. International travel and educational exchange grow marginally, strengthening cross-regional understanding. This long-term outcome is not utopian. It retains the structural challenges of globalization: inequalities, resource constraints, climate risks, and technological disruption. But by reversing direction, geopolitics becomes less reactive and more stabilizing. Nations invest in resilience rather than reach, and in cooperation rather than coercion. In a world where geopolitical momentum shifts backward rather than forward, influence becomes less about expansion and more about calibration. States reorient their priorities towards sustainability, regional stability, and long-term resilience. This creates a system that changes slowly but deliberately, emphasizing balance instead of acceleration. As the scenario concludes, the world stands more evenly structured, less polarized, and better equipped to manage the shared challenges of the century. What scenario should we explore next? Share your ideas below. You've been watching IfVerse, where imagination meets possibility. See you in our next reality.